Namaste, my friend. You are evolving, you are changing. Your mind has started being aware of the peace and the wisdom inside. In the last session, we discussed about what exactly is the happiness, love, and the peace. I would say first there is a peace that we experience, then happiness, and after that, love. Peace, happiness, and the love. But in the journey, we should also understand from where I'm searching for peace and I get into stress. I'm searching for happiness, I become unhappy. I'm searching for love and I enter into jealousy and hatred and a reaction. We should understand it clearly. And what causes this unhappiness, stress, and a conditional love, which is attachment, if we understand it clearly, it will help us in our daily life. How it can help us? You just become aware of it. Oh, I'm into anxiety. I'm searching peace, love, and happiness somewhere else where it is not. Let me drop it. Who drops it? Mind. How it drops it? You should remember this. So, what happens? What happens normally that we start searching happiness outside. We get obsessed with that person in that relationship in that event, and then we get frustrated. Are you getting it? So today we will understand that first part of this. Are you at peace while listening to me? It is coming from within. I'm just making you aware. That peace is an internal state of stillness and tranquility, not merely the absence of external conflict. It is within you. Oh, there is some. Here is. So it is the first there is a peace. It is and I'm sorry. So that peace is a state of inner calm when the mind is no longer disturbed by the constant thoughts and the emotions. How you are not disturbed by the constant thoughts and emotions? You see them, they are separate from you, they are not you. There is a recognition that you have experienced in the last few weeks. Then only we can recognize the permanent state of peace. Then you will prove that peace is our essential nature. So once there is a peace, that in that state of peace is a foundation. Just like you can say the peace is a tumbler, and in which you have the joy and the happiness. Happiness not is a temporary emotion. It is a permanent. It is not a temporary emotion coming from external conditions. Not at all. It is not coming from external circumstances and conditions, but it is rather an enduring state of the joy and contentment that lives within you. What prevents it? That is very important. What prevents it? Can I say a single word? Identification. So we will understand what is identification, how the mind gets identification, what are the byproducts of identification, and how we get into I'm searching peace, I get into stress. I'm searching happiness, I become unhappy. I'm searching for love, and it isn't conditional love, that is attachment, and I get frustrated. So you have a peace as a foundation, and then you have a joy. After that, after that, what happens? After that, there comes the unconditional love. Love transcends the common understanding of attachment, obsession, we say soulmate, and then there is a sourmate. So it is an embracing, all encompassing energy that transcends the boundaries and the judgments. Unconditional love, the recognition, that recognition, when you recognize there is an unconditional love in you, you are not searching love and happiness and peace outside. But why our mind starts searching that peace and happiness outside? Because there is an identification. Remember the word identification. We will define it, we will understand it, and then we will see how to remove this by knowledge, by understanding. Whenever you have, and the life will definitely move into that state of peace, joy, and happiness. That peace is basically a still state. What is that stillness? Stillness of the highways, stillness of the sky. The birds are flying, let them fly. And these birds are the thought, feeling, and emotions. They will continue to come for some weeks and the months, as long as we have the past impressions. And even when someone says you think, and if your mind is identified, it will create those thoughts. If the mind is not identified, the mind will remain calm. It will reflect that stillness of the peace. Am I making the things clear? If the things are not clear, you just write to me. That peace and that calm is like a still lake, perfectly reflects the sky. I'm giving you a metaphor to understand. Peace is like a lake that is still. Because it is still, it is reflecting the sky. So that very still lake, that very reflection is the peace. And it is always there. So what happens? A peaceful mind reflects reality clearly. When the mind separates itself, like the sky separates from the birds, the highways separate from the traffic, you have the peace. So means what? Anyone knocks the door and he or she starts narrating his or her story, internally you are separate. Internally, in your mind, you are separate. You are separate means that mind is still. It is like a still lake. And what about happiness? Happiness is the sun behind the clouds. What do you mean? Hi, you have the clouds in the sky. How do you know that there are clouds in the sky? Do you do you show the torch to the sky to see that there are clouds? Or it is in the presence of the sun only I see the clouds. Are you clear? In the presence of the sun, I see the clouds, but I don't exactly see the sun because it is clouded. But the sunlight is still there. Are you getting it? Happiness is the sun behind the clouds. The happiness is always there, but that clouds is the identification. Happiness, you are happy? Yes. Today you are happy? Yes. Someone knocks the door. Clear? You don't like that person? Clear? You means the mind. Now the mind becomes a cloud. You were happy the moment before, now you are not happy. Clouded. Our thoughts and desires and expectations are like the clouds that temporarily clouds. Now see that. You see that. Simple example. A person you don't like or you have certain attachment or a reaction. Right? You are sitting at home and you are happy. Now that guy knocks the door, rings the bell, and you open it. Why you are not able to maintain that peace and have joy and happiness? What happened to you? We are going to discuss what happened to us. And I'm just giving one example. What is happening to you? It is identification. I'm using only one word and then we will go to the subgroups. How it happens once there is identification takes place. Now you see, simple thing. The traffic gets identified with the highways. It will not move. It is stuck. Accident takes place. So identification is a kind of an accident. It takes place instantly in my mind, and that blocks your peace and happiness. Did you get it? Love is a flowing river. I said peace is a still lake. Always remember, peace is a still lake. Lake is the mind. It is not disturbed. Whether I am acting in personal, professional, social, and family life. Happiness is the sun behind the clouds. So I become aware of the sunlight. In that sunlight, I'm aware of the clouds. It doesn't affect me. Love is a flowing river. Love flows naturally and nourishes everything in its path. But if the love is conditional, it causes the attachment. But our goal today is to understand what is that understanding? That 4 levels of identification. We will first understand what is identification, then we will pick up 4 levels of identification that causes all the problems, and you remove these 4 levels of identification from the mind and you are free. I'm summarizing the last week's session. What is true nature of peace, happiness, and love? They are independent of anything, any person, any relationship outside. Independent. So when they are independent, they are inherent states of our being that emerge from within. When a mind becomes still, rather than achievements to be gained from the external world. You want to be in peace? Check mind. Are you seeking something outside? Drop it. Are you getting obsessed with someone outside? Drop it. How you drop it? By understanding. By even you can say to the mind, no. Mind, you're obsessed with that person or that relations or that event or that thing. I don't want to get obsessed with it. Even if you will say you are able to drop the identification, try this out in your mind. A guy knocks in the door, and before the mind goes into the reaction, no mind, calm down. Keep the leg still. I'm still aware of the sunlight in the cloud. Let me flow. I was flowing into peace and happiness. Oh, how dare anyone can disturb my peace and happiness? I'm saying, you saying to your mind, it will happen. Why? Because it will raise your awareness. Why do we struggle to experience these traits? I have already answered this question. Why we struggle? Our mind is constantly seeking external validation. Our mind are constantly seeking an external validation. How? Caught in desires and attachment and expectations, preventing us from recognizing our real nature of peace, happiness, and love. My master used to say that what exactly you want to achieve in your life. I said, okay, in those days when I was in 20s, I said, okay, I will get some job and then get married and have the kids. So then he asked me the question that job is a destination. You get the job, what you will do after that? You get married, what will you do after that? You have the kids, what will you do after that? And it is a very serious question. That anything that we achieve in the world outside, there is a starting point and there is a finishing line. Say you have a goal that I will get $10 million. You achieve this or you don't achieve this. Two possibilities are there. What will you do after that? So I said I'll be happy and full of love and peace. So the master said, why don't you start with the peace, happiness, and love, which is already within you? Why you will start thinking of the peace, love, and happiness at the age of the 60 and 70 when you have, for God's sake, you have achieved everything? Why don't you start from the very beginning? Why don't you start living, thinking, and acting, achieving your goals outside in peace, with peace, in happiness, with happiness, in love, with love? Are you getting it? Someone knocks the door, so let me communicate in peace, in happiness, and love. Are you getting it? But why it is not happening? Because of the identification. That's what we are going to discuss. So yes, identification is there, ego is there, attachment. So we will understand in a very concrete manner, so that you remember, and the life will become peaceful, happy, and love. But I have to constantly reflect. Until what time? Until you reach to that real self. What I have to reflect? You have to reflect? Simple. How often do you seek fulfillment outside yourself? Start a journal. It will take only 5 minutes. Before you go to how many times I sought fulfillment outside myself. That will tell you the story of your frustration, your anger, your hesitation, your reaction, your stress, your duality. Simply just ask your mind today how many times I sought fulfillment outside myself. What prevents me from being in peace, happiness, and love when they are my essential nature? They are identifications, and that is what we are going to discuss. Oh, they are identifications. What do you mean by I don't do? Yeah, we are coming there. And now, how can I discern and separate the stillness of the lake, that is the mind, with the mind that is disturbed? One answer: identification. Identification contains the seeds of your anxiety, of your reaction, of your duality, of your conflict, of your obsession. But we have to start from how often did I seek fulfillment outside myself? What is outside myself? From a situation, from an event, from a relation, from a thing, from an object, whatever you say. What attachments I'm holding to even today? How can I practice? How can I return to that peace, happiness, and love? There are many reasons. Now ask the question: if peace, happiness, and love are permanent state of you and of me, and still we suffer from the stress, anxiety, duality, reaction, and fear. So Master gives many reasons. It is the influence of the ego, with its need for self-preservation and validation. The ego is constantly seeking a validation, creates a sense of separation, and generates fear, anxiety, and desires. One reason, but we will go deeper. We will start with identification. The power of habit. Habit, impulsive nature. So I had this surgery now. Now I'm not putting on my glasses. That is what the doctor said. So I every day I take a bath every day, around 6 or 6:30. So today in the morning, so in that, what my mind did, the power of habit. There's a wrong power of habit, there is a good power of habit. So now I have to enter into the bathtub. What my mind did, I'm not. I'm not with the glasses, but my mind forced the body, forced my both the hands. Oh, that is the way I used to put out my glasses and put it on the. And suddenly I knew, oh, no, 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 no. Oh, where are the glasses? Sudden. That sudden awareness is awakening. Oh, you are responsible for my stress and sudden awakening. No, my identification. Are you getting it? So, the power of habit is another problem. Our minds deeply ingrained with the habitual patterns of thinking and behaving. These patterns often formed through the past experiences and conditioning and the memory, and it can perpetuate negative emotions and hinder our ability to experience the inner peace because it is habit. Like the clouds, it casts, it veils the sun, but sunlight is still there. Then there are many, many other causes, so that we will take up. Uh, there is a illusion of separation. There is a constant stream of the thoughts which prevents me to have a clarity about a person, about an event. What we are talking today is yes, I have understood peace, happiness, and love are my inherent nature, they are my essential nature, they cannot be undone. But still, I experience anxiety, fear, duality, and a conflict at times in my personal, professional, social life. And I'm simply giving you a one line, one word answer: identification. And then we will understand from that identification what are the sub factors. But the beginning is the identification. Even before attachment, there is an identification. And to make the things very clear, if you just only 4 weeks, if you prepare a journal before going to sleep just for 5 minutes, how many times you ask yourself, how many times I identified? So, the first thing to understand, we have only 4 levels of identification. So, what we will do, we will understand each level of identification. We will understand the impact on our life with these identification. We will understand also the result, the effect of these identifications. Is it clear to you? So we have 4 levels of identification. First thing, if you remember, only 4 levels of identification. So identification takes place or occurs when the mind clings to false associations with external objects or ideas or a person or relationship. We have millions of objects outside, millions of people outside, hundreds of relationships outside. We have hundreds of possessions outside. Identification. I identify. Identification with various aspects in the world outside can entangle the mind, leading to suffering and disturbances. When I understand, I get identified. This watch is very good. This monitor is very good. Where I'm speaking to you. I look into the mirror. Oh, I am beautiful or handsome. You look at this identification. I like this, I don't like this. We are just talking of, I said first, peace, happiness, and love are our essential nature. I gave an example of the still lake. I gave an example of the still lake. Hmm? And what? The sun behind the clouds and love as a flowing river. They are always with us, all the time. They are not going anywhere. My friend, they are not going anywhere. But they go everywhere. I don't feel that. So I answer that it is because of identification. And then I said there are 4 levels of identification. Identify. There are some casual identification. I'm a man, you're a woman, you're a man, I'm a woman, this house belongs to me, but this house is better than my neighbor's house is identification. But this is my house. We carry those identifications. So there are identifications which are neutral. But there are identifications which are not neutral. We need neutral identifications. Neutral identifications. Oh, do you have car? Yes, I have car. Oh, where you live? I live in Mesa. Normal identification. It does not cause any problem. Are you getting it? Do not cause any problem. But when I say my house or my home is more, you add adjectives subconsciously. But let us not go there. So just talk about there are 4 levels of identifications. First level is body identification. Second level is identification with our sense organs. Don't forget it. Third level is the identification with the mind. Fourth level is the identification with the ego. Because we are not clear about these 4 levels of identifications and we try to rationalize without understanding, and the problem is not solved. I continue to live in anxiety and disturbed mental and emotional state. Four levels of identification. First level is the body identification, physical body. Second level is the sense organs and motor senses and motor organs. Third level of identification is the subtle body identification. Subtle body has 2 parts: mental identification and the ego identification. So once you understand clearly these 4 levels of identification, and your mind, your intellect should recall you when in times of anxiety and duality and a conflict and crying, etc., the moment you recall in your head and you recognize here is a identification, very recognition is the realization, and the very realization is dropping your anxiety, duality, conflict. That is the journey, a beautiful journey of the Eastern wisdom. at the most basic level, we normally identify with our physical body. So, identification with the body. So, I view the body as I am, this is me. I am the body. So, first, I am the body. Then I look for my physical appearance. I look at my physical health, then my physical abilities. What will happen? Because now I'm identified. So that person who identifies at the physical level constantly worries about aging process, appearance, or physical fitness, believing their worth is directly tied to the bodily condition. Pay attention. You have to extract those things. I'm not saying that you should not maintain your physical health and physical well being. What I'm saying, when I get identified with it, I have worries about aging process. Can you stop the aging? Can I stop the aging? Or the physical fitness. It does not mean that I don't care about the physical fitness, but I'm not worried about it. When I'm worried, I'm identified with it. So my mind engage in extreme things, extreme diet, extreme regimes or regimens on extreme physical practices to maintain a certain look. That is the problem. So you have to find out from which identification you have the anxiety. My master used to say that imagine a turtle, whose shell becomes so integral to its identity that it forgets the turtle inside. Then what happens? The turtle perceives only the shell as its true self, neglecting its inner essence. And that's how it is killed. So, first is the identification with the body. Now, what happens? When I'm identified with the body, I have explained you a couple of things: anxiety and insecurity. I have a constant concern over physical appearance can lead to chronic stress and low self-esteem and anxiety and insecurity. Fear of mortality. Over-identification with the body intensifies the fear of aging and the death. Went to the surgery and when doctor was doing the left eye, I was totally unconscious, and when he was doing on the right, I was fully conscious. It was amazing to see within 5 minutes. And he said, "No, we have done it." I said, "How dare you? Oh, you said you have done it?" I didn't feel anything. So fear, over-identification with the body intensifies my fear of aging and the death. So when there is a fear of aging and the death, it will result into anxiety, insecurity, reaction, superficial relationship, value physical attributes over inner qualities can hinder deep, meaningful connections. and that has happened and you have dropped it. Thank God. What is this identification? You have to sit down and then ask yourself, am I the body? And the mind says yes, identification. A person identifies all its worth with the physical appearance, health, and abilities. What is the impact? Impact is obsession with the looks, fear of aging, health, anxiety. It is like polishing the surface of a pot endlessly, believing it will make the water inside pure. What did I say? Ignoring that the pot is just a container. I should repeat this metaphor. It is like polishing the surface of a pot endlessly. Endlessly. We should do it, minimum. It should be pure, hygiene, clear clarity, everything should be there. But check if the mind is obsessed with it. Identification, I should not. I should not do the identification. First identification we have created. Second identification. So first, we are only understanding the first part of identification and how this identification goes deeper into our life, into our mind, into our head, in our personal, professional, and social life impulsively. And that creates a lot of challenges. So we have covered the first level of identification, that I'm the body, and then appearance, and then aging, and then mortality, all kinds of thoughts. Second, identification with the sense organs. This level involves attaching myself to sensory experiences and perceptions. So we identify ourselves with what we see, what we taste, what we smell, what we feel, and whatever, all the five sense organs. But how? A person defines, I define myself by possessions, like I am my car, I am my smartphone, I am my sensory pleasures, and their happiness fluctuates constantly, temporary. Mind is a mirror. You are dining in a restaurant, eating a good food, and the pleasure is there. That pleasure from the tongue is reflected in the lake of the mind. How long it remains? 10-15 minutes, it's gone. I possess this car. That very idea of that possession again is reflected in the mind. How long it remains? For a few minutes and few seconds. No, but question is, no, should I not experience those pleasures? Yes, but I should not stuck to it. Identifications with me, I am sticking to it. So if I'm sticking to these sensory identifications, what is going to happen? I heavily rely on the sensory experiences, on the sensory pleasures. When I heavily rely on it, my mind also looks the other side, because those sensory pleasures do not remain permanent, and I feel a sense of emptiness and a blankness. And that emptiness and blankness sometimes causes the loneliness which again creates, it triggers the impulsive nature because of the sensory pleasures. It also creates a kind of addiction and dependence. It it always keeps the mind scattered outside. It prevents, it blocks you to succeed in the meditation. We are talking of four types of identification. Today, our session is what is these identification. Then we discuss that four types of identification and the impact of these four types of identification in our daily life. Because of the sensory identification or identification with the sense, that is where the craving, clinging comes, and it makes me unconscious. I'm not aware of that. Overindulgence, dependence. Are you getting it? First, we discussed last week peace, happiness, love. They are inherent nature. But if they are inherent nature, they are my essential nature. How come? I'm into anxiety, so identification. And then we have four types, or four levels you can say, or four levels also you can say. Outermost level is the physical, second, then the identification with the sense organs, and third is the mind. So, how I identify with the mind, with the thought, belief, and emotion. This, huh? What happens? I define myself by a thought, feeling, belief, and emotion. What happens? A kind of rigidity comes in thinking and emotional responses. You may say that I am a failure based on the past mistake and dwells on the negative thought. Mind is identifying. So my self worth fluctuates with emotional states and mental thoughts. Look at the sea, where every wave is mistaken for the ocean itself. It is not an ocean. It is not an ocean. It is simply one wave. It may be a storm. The turbulence of the waves represents the thoughts and emotions. It prevents the calm and the peace and the happiness and the love beneath. So whenever we have these type of thoughts, my mind should also think beneath it there is a peace, happiness, and love. I'm only saying simply you think of it, my friend, and then see what happens. Well, if you don't think, then what happens? Emotional turbulence, mental confusion, you experience limitedness, emotional turbulence, because we identify with emotions leading to extreme reaction and the mood swing. Mental confusion, overactive identification with the thought creates a cluttered and restless mind. Remember, be very clear, peace, happiness, love are our essential nature. I'm always seeking it, but if I'm seeking with an impure mind, it blocks peace, happiness, and love. So, what blocks is identification. There are four steps, four stages of four levels of identification. So, we have covered the identification with the body, identification with the sense organs. Now, we are dealing with identification with the mind. So, what is the impact? Emotional turbulence, mental confusion, restless mind. So, it means whenever I have a restless mind, let us understand. Recognize, I say, oh, I identification with the mind. I can just bet you. You simply say it in your head and wait and see what happens. You know what will happen? You will break the notion which took place unconsciously. What is that notion? I am my thought, I am my emotions, I am my personality. Thought, feeling, and belief is all my personality. No, you are totally different. People identify with their mental states, mood, and the memories. They are different from you. But if because I have identified with it, so there is an emotional instability, overthinking, attachment to the past. So you define yourself with all the past anxiety, impulsive nature, and reaction. What will happen to you? Normally, those people who extremely identify with their mind, it results into extreme chronic anxiety, depression, and fragmented sense of the self. Remember, I'm just peace, happiness, and love inside, not outside. When outside, it cannot happen without identification. Fourth levels of identification: identification with the body, identification with the sense organs, identification with the mind, and now the identification with so called ego identification. At the deeper level as compared to the identification with the body, senses, and in the mind, much deep at the deepest level. Identification with the ego involves attaching to a constructed sense of the self. We identify with the roles and the status and the achievement and the personal narrative, and this ego driven identifications creates a mask over the real self, and that mask is known as the personality. Persona, you know, if you look into the word persona, personality is only a mask. Behind that, our real self located, and that real self is of the nature of peace, happiness, and love. So it's very deeper, it's very subtle. I am CEO. I am the president. I am the richest person. I am beautiful. I am, I am, I am. Ego identification. What is the impact on our daily life? Suffering from the status and comparison unnecessarily. And then we have extreme fears. Protecting the ego leads to emotional suppression. First, I have an identification with the ego, and then I protect the ego. But there has to be an emotional suppression and difficulty in forming the authentic relationship. And I'm extremely obsessed and attached to the success and the failure. How come this ego identification? Because of identification to roles and labels and achieve. No, I'm a mom and nobody cares me. I've taken care of you for so many years and the months. Hold it. Be aware. Attach identification to roles, labels, achievements, believing I'm my success, possessions, and relationship. Where is the impact? Pride, arrogance, fear of failure or loss of status. We get shattered every day because of this is a very subtler level of identification. So if you summarize, we find there is a persistent anxiety and the stress in our life with these four levels of identifications. Not only that, we have a constant fear and a sense of insecurity. We get upset every day and we are happy every day. Consistent occasions of emotional turbulence, lack of authenticity, suffering, and dissatisfaction in our life. Even we have lived for 60 and 70 years as compared to millions of people, we lived a successful and happy life and still we are unhappy, dissatisfied. Body identification, insecurity about appearance or health leads to self-doubt and envy. Identification with the sense organ, dependence on fleeting pleasures causes dissatisfaction. Mind identification, emotional instability, regret, guilt, and anxiety. Ego identification, attachment to the status and possessions, creates fear, competition, and loneliness. You have to draw a cumulative effect of these four levels of identification. So if I drop the identification, will all the problem will be over? Answer is 100% yes, but this is only one word I'm using, identification. The entire family of identification is causing the problem. It is not only the identification. Did you get it? There is a family of identifications. There are parents of identification, there are children of identification, there are siblings of identification, causes the endless suffering in our life. That is what we are going to understand in our next session. But until then, you have to watch every day, even for a few minutes. You write it down, and it's better to write it down on the Word file and send it to me. Every day, yes, I'm ready to read your email. If you can do it for 6 days, and you will find out the repeated nature of these identification, that is going to be the next step in your life to change and transform, to help the peace, happiness, and love continues in your life. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.